I'm Lawton Snyder. I'm the CEO of the Eye and Ear Foundation. We want to welcome you to our webinar series. We do this every other week, and we alternate between ophthalmology and otolaryngology, so you can hear about the work going on in both departments. And we mainly focus on the research that's here to advance care for vision, hearing, balance, voice, and cancers of the head and neck at really two of the world-renowned departments of ophthalmology and otolaryngology at the University of Pittsburgh. The funds that we provide from the Eye and Ear Foundation are only made possible because of philanthropic support. I'm going to get that in right away. And we really appreciate that support because it really is the lighter fluid that gets our research going. And so everything that you're hearing about today has been supported at some point and is made possible because of the support to the Eye and Ear Foundation. So thank you for those who have supported, and again, thank you for your interest. Little housekeeping rules for webinars. Our chat is disabled, so you won't be able to chat with your friends or anybody else, but you can ask questions, and we really do want your questions. So go ahead and put your question into the Q&A button, and we'll hold those to the end, and I'll ask your question of the panelist. Refrain, please, from asking personal health questions. That would only relate to you, but you can send those questions to Mr. Craig Smith, and we'll get answers to those questions at any point. But I'll just read the questions that kind of everybody's looking for, and then please feel free to use the subtitles function at the closed captioning. That's what it's there for. And then we want you to know you will be added to our mailing list to receive more information about webinars. You can always ask to come off that if you desire. So to start our program, we have a special introduction by Dr. José-Alain Sahel, who is our distinguished professor and chairman of the Department of Ophthalmology at the University of Pittsburgh Medical School and the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and the Eye and Ear Foundation Endowed Chair. Dr. Sahel expanded the Department of Ophthalmology at the University of Pittsburgh, launching breakthrough trials and developing new models of care around new Translational Vision Institute with a strong focus on vision restoration, optic nerve regeneration, prosthetics, neuroprotection, and optogenetics. Dr. Sahel has published over 700 peer-reviewed articles and co-authored over 90 patents. He has co-founded a dozen startup companies and has garnered many awards, the most recent being the Future Vision Foundation Laureate Award in 2025 and the Wolf Prize in Medicine in 2024. And then we also are going to hear from Dr. Jay Chhablani. Dr. Chhablani is the Director of Clinical Research at the UPMC Vision Institute and Professor of Ophthalmology, and he is a vitreoretinal surgeon whose area of interest are macular disorders, artificial intelligence, automated retinal imaging analysis, and advanced imaging techniques. He's been consistently funded by the National Institutes of Health and various foundations and has published more than 590 articles in peer-reviewed journals with a focus in field of choroid. Dr. Chhablani serves on the grant reviewing board of various funding agencies as a member of the many esteemed societies and various scientific committees. He delivered more than 200 invited lectures and has been invited for visiting professor by many universities around the world. Dr. Chhablani has won several national and international awards and delivered multiple named lectures. And another esteemed colleague joining us today is Carla Aubourg, and Carla is the clinical trials manager of UPMC Vision Institute. Carla is the clinical trials manager. Carla has worked in ophthalmic research for over 20 years with previous experience as a research coordinator, IRB liaison, and regulatory lead. Together with her team, she helps investigators get their trials up and running, initiates all aspects from startup, activation, participation to close out of a clinical trial. She has initiated over 100 studies ranging in different ophthalmic subspecialties to include glaucoma, retina, cornea, and ocular plastics. Along with investigators at the Vision Institute, she continues to work with a wide range of industry sponsors nationally and internationally, bringing new and innovative trials to the Institute. I'm really looking forward to today's program on clinical trials. Thank you. Please, Dr. Sahel, if you would.
Thank you very much, Loni. Yeah, we are very happy to share today something which is really what I consider as the cornerstone of what the Vision Institute is about. In a place like ours, we see every day many patients. We provide, we believe, the highest quality of care. At least we do the best we can to achieve that goal. We do a lot of surgeries, very complex surgeries, and we have multiple scientists, more than 35 teams developing new research, new avenues towards better understanding vision loss, and trying to develop new therapies. But the way research coming from us, but also coming from collaborators, coming from companies across the world, can reach the patient and change the way we are treating them is going through clinical trials. And clinical trials is a very complex field. It requires a very specific expertise. It requires a lot of guidance, making sure that we don't put our patient at risk, while at the same time we want to help them really explore the next generation of therapies, benefit from them, and we want Pittsburgh to be a place where the most advanced therapies are being developed, are being tested, are being made available to our patients. And this is really a field, with clinical trials, that involves a lot of people, managers, experts in a regulatory aspect, technicians, nurses, patient-centered approaches, analytics, data management, and experts in every field. We are very fortunate because in the new building, we have a dedicated unit for clinical trials, which is beautiful, which is really peaceful, a place where we can conduct with the most advanced type of equipment and the best trained technicians and managers, the multiple trials that we are conducting currently. This unit is managed by Chhablani, who is the vice chair for clinical trials and a well-known expert in retinal research and has developed multiple therapies. And Carla Aubourg, with us today, is managing this unit, and she is helping us to navigate the complexity of a regulatory environment and the logistics of implementing clinical trials. So it's very technical, but each part of this technical approach is meant to protect our patient and to make sure that we are also enabling them to benefit from new innovations. So I'm very happy to hand over the microphone to Carla and to José-Alain, who are going to share with you our enthusiasm, also describe the mechanism of clinical trial, the logistics of clinical trials, and also the multiple trials that we are working on currently. Probably we're not having enough time to get into the details of many of them, but at least to give you a sense of what's happening in our building and what is really building the future for the vision of our patients. Thank you very much. Please, Carla.
Thank you, Dr. Sahel, and thank you, Lonnie, for that warm introduction. And thank you to the Eye and Ear Foundation for hosting this session. I am going to start out today's session with a little bit of a fun fact. So for those of you that may or may not know, this past Tuesday, May 20th, was Clinical Trials Day. And that is a global recognition of clinical research professionals and participants who make life-changing medical progress possible. So I just wanted to recognize our clinical research professionals and participants that pretty much make our trials come to life. Our next slide includes just some contact information. For those of you that don't know, we are located in the Vision Institute. We're on the 5th floor and we have a complete dedicated clinical trials wing. We're across the hall from the administration department, and we have our main phone number that is also dedicated just to our department, as well as an email address. This way that you don't have to fuddle through the main UPMC line or the main Mercy line, because we do have a dedicated email address and phone number. So our clinical trials leadership. Our leadership composes of Dr. José Sahel, our chair of the department, Dr. Chhablani, who is our vice chair of clinical trials with a main focus on retina trials. We have two co-directors, Vishal Janji, who has a primary focus on cornea trials, and our other co-director, Rajesh Sasikumar, who has a focus on glaucoma trials. Our director of operations is Siobhan Beaton, and our executive administrator is Ryan Rudolph. Our clinical trials team composes of 3 research coordinators, 3 imaging specialists, 1 occupational research therapist, 1 research nurse, 1 program manager, 3 street lab specialists, and not, in addition to that, what's not on the slide, we also have genetic counselors, pharmacists, and lab specialists that help maintain our trials as well. Our next slide is just a slide of our clinical trials team, or as I like to refer to them sometimes, our A team. They help serve our participants in the best way possible and help our clinical trials run smoothly. A little bit of some of the resources that we have in our clinical trials department. So included in our department are 6 dedicated exam rooms. And these exam rooms, as I mentioned previously, are solely for clinical trials. Of those exam rooms are 2 longer lane exam rooms that accommodate for certified visual acuity testing. We also have 10 rooms dedicated solely to ophthalmic imaging, 1 room dedicated to filing study documents, helps with no compromising of HIPAA, and a street lab.
Carla, can I ask you a quick question, just to, so our audience know a little bit more about the street lab. Do you want to just share with us what our street lab is doing and what a unique technology has come to Pittsburgh, one of its kind, and where do we use it?
So I am not extremely well versed in the street lab, but I can tell you that our street lab is state of the art. It's, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Chhablani and Dr. Sahel, it's the only one on the East Coast and in Western Pennsylvania. It is utilized in a lot of our retina studies. We have a full team that has all the capacities of being able to run it solely for our studies as well. And it's something that's innovative to our department and something that you definitely can't find at most institutes or any institutes in Western Pennsylvania. And Dr. Chhablani, you could elaborate a little bit more if you'd like on it.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of very important things which I'm pretty sure our audience will appreciate is that street lab is a very unique concept. In fact, started with Dr. Sahel many years ago, where, as many of our audience would understand that if you have a very advanced disease where the visual acuity assessment cannot be done just by our usual methods, we need to understand their movement path, or I should say, to understand the obstacles which we face. So nowadays, the gene therapy trials which are going on, they are very much using the street lab primarily to understand that, what uh, improvement has happened in someone's vision, which we may not be able to assess on our typical vision chart. So in the street lab, we tend to have, we create a virtual maze, and then patients have to follow the maze, and depending upon their approach through the maze, the clinical trial assessment is done, and the improvement is evaluated after the gene therapy. So this is a very unique evaluation which many of the gene therapies are introducing. Uh, Eventually, the FDA and the other regulatory bodies are also accepting this as one of the outcomes. So I think that we are just lucky to have this here because one of the key, I should say, the feature of our clinical trial unit is that we really want to be ahead in terms of all the gene therapy and the advanced options for our patients. So such facilities are going to just bring us on the map for all upcoming therapies. One more question I had for you, Carla, that, just when just can you go back to the slide of the clinical trial team when you were describing? I just wanted
Sure.
our audience to know that, what is the experience our clinical trial team is bringing, because here we have people, those who have been working with us for almost 15 to 17 years, with years of experience. And as you can see, the slide before this, here you can see that, we have very specific team for individual trials, whether it is just the research coordinator, and we also have an imaging specialist because they are really an expert as an imager, and we have imagers with experience of more than 20 years where, they have been just focused on this. So as you all can understand that the clinical trials are very much based on quality of the data, and our goal is to actually focus in bringing the best quality for the trial data set, because this is going to define the approval and the contribution to the research. In addition to this, I will definitely emphasize on our research nurse, because this is a new recruit last year. This was something which we were really wanting to have in the same building, so we are not dependent on taking our patients out of the building so to get the blood draw and the other tests done. So we are lucky to have all the team members in the same floor. Uh, Very easy access to our patients. So our patients truly feel VIP because they don't need to go anywhere else. They just come to the same one floor. This floor is up on the fifth floor, and the clinics are on the second floor. So you are getting the whole attention from everybody. And before the patient walks in for their visit for the clinical trial, our team huddles on the previous day. They sit together and make a plan that who is going to do which job. So everything is very well structured as soon as the patient walks in, and that really helps us to give the best experience to our patients. Carla, do you want to add anything else to our team and their, I should say, um, um,
Expertise.
expertise? Yes.
Yes, so we like Dr. Chhablani mentioned, we have a wide range of experienced team members, and we make sure that the participants that are coming in have those experienced team members able to be with them throughout their visits. So it's always generally all hands on deck. So all the different team members that you see on the slide are available during those participant visits as well.
Great.
So
Thank you
that
so much.
actually is a good segue into my next slide, Dr. Chhablani. So I will start with what you will see in a typical visit day. So here is our clinical trials main entrance. As I referenced before, we are located on the fifth floor of the Vision Institute. And on a typical day, this will be the door that you come through. And if you are with a caregiver or a loved one, you will end up in our waiting area. So our waiting area has that comfortable space. If whoever you have with you during your study visit can sit there for as long as they need to, as long as they like. Your generally a typical study visit is a little bit longer than a typical clinic visit, so that space is there to keep them comfortable and make it not such a unpleasant experience while waiting for the study participant. Our next slide shows a little bit of one of our clinical exam rooms, or our clinical trials exam rooms, which is different from the clinical space. It does it's complete with all ophthalmic examination equipment and supplies. This way, our investigators don't have to go down to clinic to get any supplies that they would need or use any equipment that they would need. It's all supplied right there for us on our fifth floor in the clinical trials wing. Dr. Chhablani, did you want to add anything to that?
I would just say that, the way, means I always say that I've been doing clinical trials for more than 15 years, but this floor, that clinical trial floor, is actually a dream for a researcher or a clinician who wants to do clinical trial, because here we have all the room, means the floor itself is on a separate from the clinical space, and we have all the advanced imaging tools right across the room, which makes it very easy to, work with our patients, and not just to work with the patient, but actually you can always, review the images quickly. So our investigators don't have to go through couple of computers or rooms. So we have tried to make it very easy to access, and at the same time our imagers or our technicians also have a very easy access to the room, so which overall gives a very great experience to everybody on the floor.
And we've also, just to kind of piggyback off of that, we've also found that many of our sponsors that come through and see our wing are, it lets them know that we are fully equipped and ready to start any trial that they have presented for us, which is nice as well. So our next slide shows some of the studies and trials that we have within our department. We have investigational drug studies that include INDs, investigational device trials that includes IDEs. Some studies that we have and have had are longitudinal studies, observational studies, and pilot studies. Our next slide breaks down different ophthalmic diseases that we are currently recruiting for. Within the cornea subspecialties, we are recruiting for PCED patients, NK patients, and hyperopia patients. Within the glaucoma subspecialty, we have a ocular hypertension study. Within our pediatric department, we have a ROP study. And within our retina department, we have a few AMD studies, CNV, inherited retinal diseases, retinitis pigmentosa, inherited retinal degeneration, and X-linked retinitis pigmentosa.
Carla, I would request you to just hold on to this slide.
Sure.
I really wanted to share this information with all of our audience that, we have the expertise in performing all kind of trials with at UPMC Vision Institute. We are very much involved with our industry-sponsored trial, where the drugs are being developed by the industry and they want to get the clinical trials done. So we reach to FDA approval, and then we can bring it to our patients. In addition to that, means, and that part also applies on the drugs as well as on gene therapy. But at the same time, we are also equipped to do very early stage clinical trials as well, which are typically called phase 1, 2, which is very limited number of patients, but actually building up the data to go to the next phase, which is the approval stage of the trial. So we have definitely taken care of many small things in terms of the equipment, where, we have all possible equipments available which require for any typical clinical trial. Here you can see that we have cornea trials going on, including Dr. Dhaliwal, Dr. Janji are doing a lot of trials around this. So I would request you all who are still looking at this slide, and if you find your disease familiar to any of this, definitely reach out to your physician and talk to them about it, and then they will definitely explore you to be part of the trial. Uh, One more thing which I really want to mention right now is that specifically the gene therapy trials for inherited retinal diseases, which are called rare disease, we definitely work with all our partners outside Pittsburgh, outside Pennsylvania. So we do have some patients who want to be part of the clinical trials with us, particularly for these rare diseases, and we are very much open to that as well. Uh, Talking about the in-house development, so we do have a very strong basic science unit, which Dr. Sahel just mentioned, that we have 35 basic science researchers who are working towards developing newer therapies for many of these common diseases. So we do have a couple of investigational drugs which are being developed in the same building. So eventually in next few years, we are planning to get started using those in-house developed drugs. This would be like really the next level where we are like trying to address everything ranging from basic science, where we are developing the therapies in animals and taking it to the human trials in the same building. So I think that we are very excited to, be part of this journey, particularly with Vision Institute in terms of clinical trial. So I would definitely request you all to go through this list, talk to your physicians, and then reach out to them or to us. One more thing which I want to say here is that we are also in parallel trying to develop the database for our patients, because we really want to offer these clinical trial to many of our patients. So in addition to the patients and the clinical trial visits, we have a team who is working to build the patient database, which will help to reach out to patients and offer them really good clinical trial options. That's all from my side, Carla. If you want to add anything.
Thank you, Dr. Chhablani. We'll move on to the next slide. And the next slide pretty much breaks down many of the current recruiting trials that we have. We've given the majority of them nicknames, and I'll reference the nicknames just so you know some of the ones that we have currently enrolling. Our CHASE study, our SEER2 study, and our TENEO study all are recruiting under the cornea department. Our ROP4 study is recruiting under the pediatric department. We also have our ASCENT study, NOPROD study, Prodigy study, UniRare study, and VISTA study, all recruiting under the retina department. And the couple that have been referenced under retina are gene therapy trials that Dr. Chhablani kind of gave a bit of an overview about that we have going on within our department.
So in regards to the pediatric trials, we would just mention that, Dr. Ken Nischel and his team at Children's Hospital is very much involved in the clinical trials. We do not do clinical trials, pediatric clinical trials in the Vision Institute, but we will be happy to, connect you. Anybody wants to explore the pediatric clinical trials, we can definitely connect you with the team at Children's. And we do facilitate a couple of administrative work for them. So we will be happy to make these connections.
So our next slide has some of our clinical investigators. So many of these investigators are probably physicians that you've seen, some of our listeners have seen within clinic. Just wanted to give a little overview of some of those physicians on here that are currently running trials within the department. And lastly, what I think a good number of people came on here to find out about are more about our clinical trials. So we do have a webpage, as Lonnie had mentioned earlier, and that is www.ophthalmology.pitt.edu/research/clinical research/ophthalmology clinical trials. Say that 3 times fast. Our QR code right on here will lead you directly to our website. So when you go on, there is a breakdown of different subspecialties and trials that are under those subspecialties, which takes you onto a link that'll give you a breakdown of inclusion, exclusion criteria for those studies, and a little bit more about what those studies entail. So if you are interested in learning more and knowing what we have specifically going on in terms of recruitment for our department and ongoing active studies, you could go on to that link and find out more about our trials.
Okay, thank you both. And I'll tell you, this is a lot of great information, and I'll tell you another way to find exactly what Carla is referring to, because I did it while they were talking. If you just go to Google and you search ophthalmology, University of Pittsburgh, and then when you get on that site, just search for clinical trials, you'll come up with that same link. If you have a hard time with the QR code and so forth, they're there, and it's very easy once you're on the page to be able to find where all the clinical trials that are available, and the contact information is right there to get hold of the office for it. This has been a big change from the time I've been with the department with the Eye and Ear Foundation for 15 years. And I can tell you that, it's ramped up considerably in these last few years in terms of the number of clinical trials that we have. And that's exciting to see, because everything that we're supporting through the foundation, everything that we have done, and everything we talk about for years is trying to get care out to patients. And honestly, we know we have great science going on here, but the question always is, when can I benefit from it? And everybody can only benefit from it when it gets through a clinical trial. And then, even beyond that, also to where it becomes something that's available commercially for people to be able to be prescribed and so forth through their physicians. So with that, I'm going to ask a question to both of you. How do our clinical trials get funded? Who pays for them?
Okay, so I'll take this one, Carla.
Okay.
So most of there, like Carla was mentioning, that we do different trials. One is the industry-sponsored trial, where the trials are very much supported by the industry. So one of the pharma companies who is developing the drug, I'm trying to break it simple, that if the pharma companies are developing a drug for a certain disease, they would have to go through the clinical trials to get the FDA approval. And that is where we come in the picture, where they will reach out to us and to conduct the clinical trials, and they will support the whole clinical trial using our study site. The other studies which we do, we are called as investigator-initiated trials, where one of our investigator would like to do some clinical trials, and they will have to get funding to run the clinical trial. And typically, this sort of funding comes through NIH grants or through foundation grants. And thanks to Eye and Ear Foundation, they have helped us a lot to run some of our trials. So that is one thing. And then in addition to this, we can always help in terms of, retrospective studies and those things which are very much supported by the department.
So various sources, and certainly industry is one of the major ones. These are expensive, aren't they, to do a clinical trial?
Yes, they are very expensive clinical trials. The clinical trials are very expensive. Even when you kickstart, there's a lot of expenditure, but we have a team who creates the budget, and then, we help out. And many times we do work with the industry and other folks, and, we try to make the best, I should say, the options for everybody. And we work very closely with the University of Pittsburgh. That is where many of our I should say, folks in UPIT, they help us to set up the clinical trial as well.
Well, of course, I've been through the clinical trial center many times, and I appreciated the pictures that you guys are showing just to give people an idea. It is a very unique trial space in that one, it's separated from the rest of the clinic, which makes it nice. And I do know this, and you guys alluded to it with the street lab and some of the other testing. The testing is very different. So in addition to the street lab, which really looks at functional assessment, going beyond just the visual field and the things you get in your clinic, we're looking at, have we actually improved a patient's quality of life because they can function better, they can do things in their life better. It's amazing to see that. What are some of the other things around, and how does it work when you're in a clinical trial that we're trying to, and I know Dr. Chhablani, you do a lot of this, we're really trying to understand changes in the eye at the very cellular level, and maybe tell us a little bit about what we have going on in those areas.
So, in addition to I should say the commercial or FDA approved clinical imaging devices, we do have a very strong high resolution imaging team as well, which is led by Dr. Rossi. So we do have adaptive optics, laser Doppler holography, as well as metabolic imaging. So we do use some of these tools for many of our patients to understand what changes are happening at the cellular level. So um, the patients, those who are part of the clinical trials, they are also being seen in the clinic, and if they have interest in becoming part of the high resolution imaging studies, we definitely offer them.
Yeah. And that offers you an opportunity to see changes that are happening that
At the
may
cellular
be
level.
taking place before anybody starts to experience any
Correct.
vision loss. But also, if you're starting to incorporate a new drug or new medication or gene therapy, you can see those changes at the cellular level.
Yes.
That's fantastic, and it is unique again to not every place in the country has that level of imaging, as you mentioned, and I do know that I don't think it's changed yet that we're the only place in the country that has a street lab. The very first street lab actually was in Paris, and so it was the first street lab in the world. I think ours is the second in the world, the first in the U.S. And because of that, we also have an affiliation or a memorandum of understanding with the FDA because the FDA likes to know a little bit more than just what we're seeing in a clinic to be able to measure someone's vision. They like that data that comes to that we get from a street lab where we can assess functional assessment. And for all of you, if you're in a clinical trial, we want to show that you're getting better in your everyday life just as much as we want to show you've improved your vision a little bit. It's more important to us to make sure that you're improving your functional ability in your everyday life. So let me get to some of the questions that we have in front of us. I think we've sort of answered how you become part of a clinical trial, although, people can sign up for these, but do they need to go to their doctor to get a referral to get into a clinical trial, or can they just call you, Carla, at our office?
So we do have a triage line pretty much. So if there's a study that a patient has either heard about or just has a condition where they think that they might be eligible for a study, they can call our main line and we will walk through what studies we have available, if there are any available that they might be an eligible participant for, we'd set up an appointment. If not, we try to keep the callers on our list of potential participants for upcoming studies.
Wonderful.
But
Now,
our main number is the best way to get information out to us so that we can get information to the participants about studies, the possible participants about studies.
Because not every, you can have, say, you have macular degeneration and you see that we have a clinical trial for macular degeneration, but your state of disease or you may not, there's specific criteria that you could be a qualified candidate or you may not because of the specific criteria. So it's important to call, correct?
Correct. And as I had mentioned previously, on the website, there is a link that for certain studies that we are enrolling for that will give you a list of inclusion, exclusion. So depending on how much you know your medical history, you can get an idea of whether you'd possibly qualify or not. But we do have a triage line that you could kind of give more information, get more in depth, then we'd set up an appointment and find out if you are eligible or not for the study.
And I do know because I talk to patients all the time, it's so frustrating because they're always looking to get into a clinical trial because they really are hoping that this will benefit them. And of course, that's our goal too. But never get frustrated because whenever you're applying for these, the criteria is set because they're really trying to understand something very important in that criteria that will help understand the problem a lot better. And it will help everybody in the future, even those who aren't in a clinical trial. So I think that's I'll throw that out there because I know I talk to people all the time, and that I know that is the case. Now this next question, actually, I probably am the one to answer this, but it's asking how's Pittsburgh benefiting from all this? And I think maybe, well, we all understand that, Pittsburgh is becoming a center for this nationally and internationally. That's certainly important for the ecosystem here in Pittsburgh. But we're also participating in developing new companies that are now being established throughout this environment. Dr. Chhablani has one of those, is involved with helping start one of those companies, and essentially it's coming out of the work that we're doing in these areas. And his is more to understand changes in vision using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So Pittsburgh benefits greatly from the fact that we have such a robust clinical trial area. Anything else to add, Carla or Dr. Chhablani?
I would say that, means I have been a clinician, a retina specialist for 15 years, and we do have diseases where we don't have any treatment option. And it's very sad for both the physician as well as for the patient when we say that we cannot do anything. So I think when we have clinical trials, it is actually very exciting to offer something to our patients and to actually give them some hope that, this probably will help you. Obviously, this is a trial, so we can never be 100% sure. But at the same time, I always tell my patient that, I see patients, those who were in the clinical trials 5 years ago for aided study, where the vitamins, now we give vitamins to every patient. If these patients did not become part of the clinical trials 15 years ago, we wouldn't have been doing this treatment. So
Right.
something similar we will see for this generation, for the next generation and the coming. So this is definitely a bigger contribution from everybody, that we are like really helping to build up the new treatment options, as well as trying to help the patients who are suffering from diseases where there is no treatment.
That
So
word, just to add on to that word hope, Dr. Chhablani, that you use, we've seen many of patients come through the clinic and they say that even if this is not going to help me, it gives me hope that it'll help others. For our inherited retinal disease studies, it'll help their family members, and that just having that hope that something may help them in the future is one of the contributing factors of them being a part of our research studies here.
and thank you again, as you did, Carla, all the participants, all the study participants who go through these, because it is work to be part of a clinical trial. You're going to have to commit a lot of time to be part of it and come in and have lots of visits. So thank you, because it's a very valuable contribution. The question here is about international multinational trials. Are we doing many international multinational clinical trials?
Absolutely, absolutely, because many of these trials have to be done internationally because of building up the data set, matching the ethnicity. So we like to be part of the multinational trials just because once they are shown treatment success or efficacy in both sides of the world, it definitely means that this should actually be approved and should be brought in the clinic. So absolutely, we are part of many, many trials.
We have several questions in here, and I kind of know where they're coming from, because we do a lot of information and webinars and so forth on optic nerve regeneration. Do we have any, I kind of know the answer, but do we have any current clinical trials in optic nerve regeneration?
Unfortunately, we haven't reached there. So I always tell the patient it takes a little longer time to come from the top to the bottom. So we will reach there in next few years, because we have really strong basic scientists who are focused on that. They work very closely with our clinicians. So very soon, I would say.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I know, because that's an area that the foundation's been involved in helping and supporting for years. And thank you for everybody who's contributed that way. It's a monster of a problem when you have damage to your optic nerve, in terms of finding ways to address that. And but we have really, really smart people working on this, and we have things that potentially could break through to where they're going to be available for patients. It's just a matter of all those processes have to go through their steps in getting through everything that you have to do first in the basic science, and then safety trials, and then eventually to clinical trials. So so there's a few of those. Can you enroll in a trial if you're not currently a patient of one of the physicians at UPMC? That's a good question.
Yes, we do take patients that are not currently seeing a physician at UPMC, and they'd just be enrolled as a clinical trials patient.
Very good. And here's another good question. How does this work with your health insurance?
So depending on the study, that can vary. We do have studies that are observational or longitudinal, where these patients are coming in for routine care appointments, where your insurance would be billed. And we have trials where the study covers all the examinations and everything that's completed in the study. So it just depends on the type of trial or study that you are in.
And some of the trials, some of the sponsors do offer chauffeur-driven pickup and drop as well. So their access is also offered. Because I know that many of our patients have challenge in, driving and spending long hours, parking. So some of the sponsors do help with this component as well.
Excellent. So I see a question related to, I think you mentioned, Dr. Chhablani, about patient databases. Is there some place people could find out? Because there's a question specifically as to whether, like, are we assembling data on NION or other things? Is it kind of universally we're collecting data on really everything that we're doing in the clinic as well as in clinical trials?
So we are right now, we have started building up the database for specific diseases, which we are running right now for the clinical trial. But the goal is to actually develop a widespread database, which will help our future clinical trials as well. So these things will roll as we move forward.
So I have a question here that actually asks about, something that they didn't see on our list. And the question is really, I think, a good question. If we're not doing something that, say I have, a specific type of glaucoma and I'm checking in to see if we have a clinical trial, is it worth calling to see if we're partnering with anybody, or if we know of anybody that's doing clinical work in these areas to find another institute that may be able to accept us in a clinical trial?
Good question. And in fact, yesterday my patient asked me the same question. And I think that this is very much dependent on your, disease stage, that your clinician is able to review and figure out whether you would be eligible or not. And then depending upon the access to the patient, that, if you live 6 months in Florida, so yes, we can definitely find you one of my colleagues in Florida, and then, find out if they have that trial, and we can definitely help you to make that connect. And I would rather be, like I was saying, that, if no treatment is available, and if the clinical trial is there and the patient is motivated, if we don't have, or we are already, closed out from our site, or, there are situations where we are already done with this trial, but other trials are still, other sites are still going on, we can definitely make a connection.
Thank you. So this is a good question, because I guess if you're entering a clinical trial, you'd want to know this. How often, when you're entering a clinical trial, is it a double blind? So meaning, how often are the people treated with a new drug while the others get placebo? Are most of our trials done that way, or is it a certain percentage? And obviously everybody is well informed of this, that's a possibility if that's the case, correct?
That's a very good question. Carla, I'll take this one. So I would say it again depends on the type of study. Say that if you are dealing with just a drug which is like given in the, like intravitreal injection in the eye, then sometimes it is easy to mask. But if you are comparing an injection versus a surgery, then that patient is undergoing a surgery. Then kind of they know that I'm not the injection only arm, but I am part of the surgery. But but the but FDA makes it mandatory to when we are designing the clinical trial, that time we will make sure that we have two arms in the surgery, then the patient will be aware that I underwent surgery, but how much dose did I receive during the surgery, they may not be knowing. So these things are very, very strict at the FDA level. And I can assure you that before the industry reaches out to any of the study sites like us, they have to get the approval by the FDA for the trial design, and FDA makes sure that the blinding is done very well.
It's certainly a good question. You're right. Now, just tell us, what do you see on the near horizon of potential clinical trials that that you think will be coming here, or that we can look forward to?
So when I really look forward, I feel that we will be doing more of innovative therapies such as gene therapy, the implants, and we will definitely be. I'm just biased about retina, so please excuse me. But we will be looking into more like therapies which will have sustained drug release. There could be one and done therapies. There is lots of exciting thing coming up, particularly in the retina. So we are very excited, and we definitely reach out to many of these sponsors and try to bring the trial to us so we can definitely help our patients.
It does seem, Lonnie, like gene therapy is the next, for lack of a better term, new wave that's coming through. We're seeing it across the board in cornea and glaucoma as well. So that
And we have some gene therapies in clinical trial right now, correct?
in our retina clinic, yes, we currently do, and we have some that are coming for our cornea clinic.
Yeah, and just a little note for those who maybe don't know, but we even for gene therapies that are being done here in Pittsburgh in our building, we have a gene therapy specialty pharmacy right in the OR for those preparations to be done, so that they get to the patient very quickly. And the same for any stem cell therapies that we may be doing in the future. Is that and any other follow up on that that point?
So our pharmacy department, yes, they work directly with our gene therapy drug, and anytime we have an injection that needs to be done in the OR, they are there readily available and put everything in place that needs to be done for that gene therapy study.
Okay, great. So I have a question, and this is about our Fox Center. Wondering if it's if part of the clinical trials program. Our Fox Center is a research division of the Department of Ophthalmology here at the University of Pittsburgh. Its focus is primarily on optic nerve regeneration and whole eye transplant. So anytime that those optic nerve regeneration research protocols are getting to a clinical trial, then for sure they would happen right here. We are one and the same, to answer that question. And of course, as we mentioned before, the optic nerve regeneration isn't here yet. We also are doing a very large collaboration with universities across the country on work in whole eye transplant. You're going to read a lot about it, but it's still, again, mostly being done, in our basic science research endeavors right now. And again, hoping for that to come to clinical trial. I have a final question here about Neuralink, which we don't have any. We don't have any clinical trials currently going on with Neuralink.
And to my knowledge, no.
But I do know that we have some research scientists that are interested in collaborating with scientists there who are working in our cortical visual neuroprosthesis and cortical vision work. And we have some relationship with some of the scientists at Neuralink, and they are doing very good work. I hear that again from Dr. Sahel and others that it's very promising, but no clinical trials just yet. I think we finished all the questions. If I missed any, Christina will be looking this over, and if I missed any, we'll get back to you directly, which we do. And I think that this is, again, obviously a really great topic, one which we, I think, need to bring you up to date on a little bit more often, every so often, I should say. And I think we should talk about what we're doing in otolaryngology and clinical trials as well, because we have a lot of very good things happening there. And it's always a goal. And so our goal to do this in a year from now would be to talk about, twice as many clinical trials as we have going on right now. And my guess is that that's probably going to be the case. It seems to be accelerating at a very rapid rate, thanks to the good work that goes on in our Vision Institute. So any parting words, Carla, Jay, any?
Just thank you again, Lonnie and the Ioneer Foundation, for hosting this. I'm hoping that some of the information that we put out there will help participants in making the decision to become a possible participant in one of our trials.
So please reach out, folks, if you have any questions, if you have any other follow-up questions or any needs for us, please reach out. And everybody have a wonderful Memorial weekend.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Sure.
Thanks to you, Lonnie and Ioneer, for organizing this. And thanks to all our patients who are listening. Because of you, we take the field forward. And we really want to thank you all to be part of our clinical trials so we can help many more patients. Thank you all.
Wonderful way to end it, Dr. Chhablani. Thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful weekend.